Week 14 waiver wire. It's the last week before the playoffs. Let's get it started. Do you have questions at quarterback? Don't worry, I got you. Trevor Lawrence finished last week as a top 5 quarterback. He's had back-to-back games with 20 or more points, and he's not on the waiver wire. Indy's not the worst matchup. You can fire him up. Tyrod Taylor might not have thrown for 200 yards, but he did rush for 44 and had 2 touchdowns, 1 on the ground and 1 in the air. Not bad. Now against the Miami Dolphins, who definitely don't scare you. Honestly, we're scraping the bottom of the barrel this week. Tyler Shough had 2 touchdowns, and he ran a little bit. He had like 6 or 7 attempts, but he had less than 30 yards. Desperation play stuff. This one's super risky, but only because we don't know if he's going to play. Marcus Mariota was the back 3 last week. 2 touchdowns, almost 300 yards. The problem is, we don't know if Jaden Daniels is going to be back and playing. But if he misses, Minnesota's not a great matchup, but honestly, if you're down this far, you are desperate. And I am desperate in a 2 quarterback league, so he's already on my roster. Moving on to the running backs. Are you having a rough time at running back? Don't worry, I got you. I'm gonna be honest with you, this is not a great week for running backs. Zonoran Knight, also known as Bam Knight, probably my top pick, but that's not good. Terrible matchup, goes up against the Rams. And we don't know the Trey Benson situation. I thought he was supposed to be back like 2 weeks ago. Is he gonna come back this week? If he comes back, is he gonna play? How much is he gonna play? Up in the air. But Bam Knight has had a touchdown in 3 straight games and had double-digit fantasy points in 3 straight games. So I'd say he's a desperation flex. Chris Rodriguez Jr. has had a touchdown in 3 of the last 4 games. Not the best matchup, but if you need somebody to get double-digit carries, he might be your guy. This next guy's on bye, but the starter went out, so we need to watch for him. Devin Singletary did work last week. He was involved in the passing game and the receiving game, got into the end zone. He's had 17 or more points in 2 of the last 3 games. The problem is he's on a bye, so you can't really use him. And we don't know how long Tyrone Tracy's gonna be out, so is it possible he's back in a couple weeks? Maybe. He did get carted off the field, so that's kind of up in the air. But Singletary's probably worth a grab, especially if you're only worried about the playoffs. Check to see if Kyle Monunga is out on your waiver wire. He's rostered in 60% of the league, so probably not, but still worth a check. Also, make sure Jordan Mason isn't on your waiver wire. He probably isn't because he's 67% rostered, but if he is, I'd grab him. Aaron Jones looked a little banged up, and he's getting older. Never know how much time they're going to miss. Moving on to the wide receivers. Are you weak at wide receiver? Don't worry, I got you. Jaden Higgins has had 10 or more fantasy points in 4 of his last 6 games, plus he's had a touchdown in 3 of the last 6. I like to see how involved he's been. Targets 5, 9, 7, 7. Kansas City is going to be focusing on Nico Collins. Higgins should be able to get some work. If you play Dynasty, you probably know Isaac Tesla. Or if you've seen a random amazing catch from the Detroit Lions and was like, who is that? It was Isaac Tesla. That man is a beast, just can't get on the field. With Amon-Ra St. Brown going down, Isaac Tesla's gonna get some work. Now, don't forget, the Lions did trade 2/3 to move up and draft this kid in the 3rd round. That means they spent 3 third-round picks on this kid. I know he hasn't been getting work, but desperate times calls for desperate measures. And when your star is out, you call up the rookie. See what they can do. Wouldn't surprise me if he got in the end zone with a nasty catch. Devon Vele had a great game last week, went 8 for 8, 93 yards and a touchdown. He's available everywhere, goes up against my Bucks, and Tyler Shough looks okay. He's not completely terrible. I like the targets he's been getting. 8 this week, 7 last week. How about? Shout out to Adnan Mitchell if you're desperate. He had 12 targets last week. Turned that into 8 for 100 and a touchdown. That's amazing. He had a big chunk touchdown play, but I mean, he can do that. Not overly excited, but he's a solid dart throw. Also, my Bucks are starting to get healthy apparently. Make sure Chris Godwin isn't on the waiver wire. He's available in 36% of leagues. Also, he went 3 for 78 last week. That's pretty good. He's only going to get worked in more. This is big if you're playoff bound. Somehow Mike Evans is talking about coming back. Y'all saying we might get my boy back during the season? I cannot wait to see Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and Emeka Egbuka all on the same field. There's no guarantees, but he's working to come back in the next couple weeks. pretty good. And he's available in 29% of leagues. Go see if somebody dropped him. I was actually able to get him in a league. That was crazy. Moving on to the tight end position. Are you having a tough time at tight end? Don't worry, I got you. Brenton Strange has had back-to-back games with double-digit fantasy points. Goes up against the Indianapolis Colts, who aren't great against the tight end. Definitely a solid grab. Dalton Schultz has had double-digit fantasy points in 6 of the last 8 games. I'm also really digging the targets. He's had 8 or more targets in 5 of 7 games. So he's involved, and he has a nice baseline. Fire him up. Darren Waller wasn't overly involved in between the 20s, but when they got towards the end zone, they throw it to Waller. I think he's definitely worth an ad, and he'll get better as the playoffs go on. Plus, matchups are pretty nice. Somehow, Juwan Johnson is not 50% rostered. Go grab him. He's had double-digit fantasy points in 5 of his last 6, and then when he didn't have double digits, he had 8.9. I think he has a solid floor, and he can always get in the end zone. I also like Isaiah Likely and Colston Loveland as flyers. Moving on to the defenses. Are you desperate for a defense? Don't worry, I got you. Tampa Bay Buccaneers get to go up against the New Orleans Saints. Saints have a rookie quarterback. And though I think Tyler Shaw hasn't been terrible, he's still a rookie. Gonna get sacked a few times. Might throw a pick, maybe a fumble. The Bucs actually have a good schedule for the rest of the year too. After New Orleans, Atlanta Falcons, Carolina Panthers, Miami Dolphins, and back to the Panthers. Yeah, you might be able to ride this defense for a bit. A lot of people dropped the Kansas City Chiefs because they were facing the Dallas Cowboys. I get it. But now they get the Houston Texans, who are not the best at offense. That defense is crazy. In an absolute must win. Going up against a terrible offensive line, there will be sacks galore. And throw in a pick as well. The Washington Commanders going up against the Minnesota Vikings. Y'all saw what just happened to the Vikings. I'm not sure who the quarterback's gonna be. I much prefer who played last week. He was terrible. JJ McCarthy isn't much better, but he is better. Make sure that the Cleveland Browns are not out there. They're rostered in most leagues, but they face the Tennessee Titans. Please make sure they're not available. And I know that the Broncos aren't available, but if you see them, you should probably play them. They face the Vegas Raiders. So that's gonna do it for my Week 14 waiver wire. Who do I get right? Who do I get wrong? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and the notification bell down below. I'll see you soon, Bay Nation. Peace.